In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at this upcoming pattern. I know it sounded the same for a few weeks here, and it really has been. We're in a very progressive pattern. We're seeing the cold and warmth move from west to east rapidly. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, doesn't it always do that? But it's happening a lot faster here. Oftentimes, we'll honestly see things kind of stay pretty stagnant, where the cold will stay in the west or the east and the warmth in the other, and not really move around too much. But we are seeing this pattern just really move. And what that is creating is a lot of extra instability as this cold air moves into warmer areas. That is causing these storms to ignite, and we've really seen a bigger severe weather event, I would say, than expected with this previous cold front and dry line. I'm not going to get into that. It's complicated and it would take me a little bit to explain here, but it is a little bit more of a dynamic setup that we had because of the way it was moving so rapidly across the nation. And we expect to see more events just like this one as we maintain that kind of, again, progressive pattern. So let's just dive into it. Let's take a look here at tomorrow afternoon. And what we'll see is that this kind of cold front has moved offshore and it's all said and done. What we're left with in the east, at least, is going to be cooler temperatures than normal across the northern and southern regions there of the east. Out west, we have some warmer air for this area here. But we already see another trough starting to move in here for the northwest. And this is bringing storminess, as you can see, and also snowfall for the northern Sierra Nevada mountains, the Cascades, and then the northern Rockies there. As we keep going, that was Thursday the 29th, by the way, our leap day this year. And on Friday, March 1st, which will be my birthday, by the way, we see some storminess still building in for the west and actually expanding as we have some lower pressure spreading southward. We see the entirety, or at least the northern 2/3 of the Sierra Nevada mountains now getting snowfall. They're going to get hammered, by the way, over the entirety of this model run. And we see that the entire northwest corner is now dealing with snowfall in the mountainous areas and rainfall in those lower elevation and coastal areas. Meanwhile, we actually have a pretty progressive storm moving into the southeast with a lot of this warmth and humidity. What we're seeing is rising storms in these areas. This happens a lot in the spring and summertime. We've mentioned it a few times here over the last couple of weeks if you haven't noticed, but we're moving into a very early spring pattern here for the end of February into the beginning of March. So it makes sense that we're seeing a feature here that is very typical in these springtime patterns, and we're in one of those here very early on. By the time we reach Saturday, and this is going to be the 2nd of March, we see that this area of storminess has moved northward, okay, through the mid-Atlantic and into the northeast, even in New York and parts of New England. And meanwhile, we have the opposite taking place out west here as these storms are continuing to spread southward here throughout that western area. Now, the entirety of the Sierra Nevada mountains, as well as the Cascades and the northern Rockies, are experiencing moderate to heavy snowfall at this point and coastal rainfall there for California. All right, now as we move towards Sunday on the 3rd of March here, we see that a lot of these storms have now moved offshore for the east, so we're drying up a little bit here for most of the eastern seaboard. And then we see that this storminess is continuing out west. But look at the pattern that we're dealing with, okay? We have this trough now encompassing the entirety of the northwestern United States, and a ridge as a result of that is building for the east and continuing to get more and more intense. Sunday, we're warming up, and even by the time we're reaching the 4th here, we're seeing things get even warmer as all of this just kind of rises up. Even some more of these rising storms throughout the south central and deeper south states now in this very humid and warm environment compared to what's typical this time of year. We still see snowfall in the northwest, a little bit less of it though, as things are weakening down by the 4th, and by the 5th here on Tuesday, what we see happening is a pretty interesting storm. We have some lower pressure building for some of these plains here, a pretty wacky warm front that's extending well northward, and this is a good example of where that warmth is really reaching well up into Canada, as you can see. Not only that, we do have a cold front underneath, and along this cold front boundary here, this area, I do expect severe weather to be possible here. So Tuesday, March 5th, be on the lookout as there's potential for thunderstorms and severe weather. Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana here, Texas, portions of Oklahoma, maybe even stretching northward through Kansas, Missouri into Illinois here on the northern area here of the cold front or the southern area of the warm front, we're definitely seeing some activity reach far northward there. By the time we reach Wednesday on March 6th, we have an even more interesting setup. This low pressure system is located near western Kentucky as a 1006 millibar low pressure center. We have this warm front kind of elongated still way to the north, showing again where that warmth is reaching. So we see that well north into Canada there. So definitely very, very warm for the northeast, mid-Atlantic, and the southeast here. But not only that, we have a cold front extending and now bowing out as some cooler, drier air is able to reach its way in. And again, we do expect potential severe weather for this southeast corridor as this moves through for states like Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida here. All of these areas experiencing these thunderstorms and potential severe weather. Pretty similar to our setup today, actually, now that I think about it. It's bowing out ahead of that low pressure system, which is a little bit different for sure. But definitely we have the warm air out ahead of it. Probably extremely windy like it has been for a couple of days here along the eastern seaboard. You can expect those things to continue and seeing heavier showers and thunderstorms rolling through those areas. Now, by the time we reach Thursday, and this is going to be on March 7th, we see this low has now risen up into the northern corridors of New York there. This cold front is mostly offshore now, still impacting a little bit of the mid-Atlantic and northeast, where we can't even rule out thunderstorms up that way as well. Just like we had today in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, portions of New York, heavier showers, wouldn't be surprising to see some thunder in there as well. That's definitely the type of activity we're expecting. Now for Friday on March 8th, what we're seeing is potentially another round of storminess, as we're seeing this cold air has really maintained out west. We're seeing this warmth spread eastward again after that cold front has rolled through, and already we have another low forming over Kansas there, likely a cold front trying to form as well as a warm front out here to separate that boundary. So definitely more severe weather and thunderstorms potentially starting in the plains for states like Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Texas, and Louisiana, eventually spreading eastward. Let's move to the end of the model run here, and you see things start to explode around this storm. I mean, a 997 over Kansas here, cold front stretching southward, and a warm front beginning there. This is a recipe for another potential thunderstorm and severe weather event here in the next 10 days. So as we're approaching kind of the 8th, 9th time frame, likely looking at the 10th and 11th as well for these eastern states as this low moves eastward. So we'll see this activity kind of just spread eastward as they've been doing. Now the GFS model, this is going to be interesting because we get to see the storms that we just looked at on the European model, so we can compare. But not only that, the European model, which is the one we just looked at, only goes out to 10 days, but this GFS American model that we're looking at now actually goes all the way out to 15 days. So we're getting a bonus 5-day outlook at the end of this one. That's going to give us a little bit of a longer range outlook. So let's go ahead and move along with this. We get that kind of rising southeast storm with warmer humid air for that kind of southeast mid-Atlantic area. Again, by the 2nd, spreading northward into the northeast, that continued activity for the northwest. We get that cold front around the 5th, 6th time frame, just like on the European model, and we get that 8th, 9th storm as well, again, spreading towards the eastern states, as I just said. But look at this, it actually transfers into a Miller B nor'easter and brings potential snowfall to the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So even though we see this early spring pattern, winter is still here. It is still early March, late February, early March time frame. And we do still expect to see potential snowfall for these northern areas especially. The 11th is a lot quieter. We see a building ridge here for the 12th, 13th along the lines of what we've been seeing. But look at this cold front, guys. This is very, very intense. We have a 999 low pressure system up here in Canada. That's definitely the primary low. We have a secondary 1003 millibar low pressure center down there for Arkansas, and a cold front extending down through all of this, as well as a warm front out to the east. So this separates where the warm air is rushing northward there for the eastern areas, and then cold and dry air moving in from the west towards the east, towards this warmer, more humid layer. We all learned that warm air and cold air mixing is a big piece of what causes instability. This is something that they teach in school, and I'm talking, high school, middle school, elementary school. We all learn this, but also the dry air combining with the humid air also plays a role here as well. We see the humidity building with the warmth to the east, and then the drier, colder air coming from the north moving in. All of these things having a very sharp contrast between each other along this cold front area is part of what causes that instability, these thunderstorms, and as a result, severe weather activity. As we reach the end of this model run, we see a couple concerning things here. This low moves northward, and the primary low is still up to the north, so we get kind of a stationary or cold front up there, but definitely a cold front extending southward from that secondary low here. And what's concerning about this one moving northward towards Canada is this cold front is going to be sweeping the entire nation from west to east, as you can see, all the way from Michigan and Ohio southward through Indiana and Kentucky, down to Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia. So you see many more states impacted. Whereas if the low was southward, like for Kentucky and Tennessee, we would only see that cold front extending for that southern half here. But we have the low all the way up here, so we get the full sweeping effect of that cold front, which leads to more impacts. Let's take a look at the total precipitation. We see plenty out west, and actually the most in the nation over the next 10 days will be for these western areas like California, Oregon, Washington, where we expect feet of snowfall, but we actually get a ton here for the east as well, as we get a lot of these sweeping cold fronts moving through. But not only that, we get these rising kind of humid storms that are very spring-like, and that brings a lot of precipitation as well. So highly above average amounts in the east and the west, with near normal amounts here for a lot of the plains and the upper Midwest, and I would say the north central states in general. Now, the total snowfall in the European model, no surprise, we don't really get a lot at all here in the east, but we do get a ton out west, maybe the most of the entire winter season, so expect a whole lot out there for the mountainous west. The GFS model, however, we do see a ton out west, just like the European model, but we actually do get quite a bit here for the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. And not only that, remember, we have that Miller B nor'easter moving offshore on this model run, which brings a lot here for the northeast and portions of the mid-Atlantic. So some differing opinions here, definitely some potential for some snowfall last minute, as March is still somewhat a wintry month oftentimes for the northeast especially, and especially if you're at higher elevations. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for more daily weather videos just like this one. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.